Hello, Professor Toybox here along with Poe Dameron, and I'm back in my Anoat City Sewer Toy Box where I'm recreating mission number 3 of the 1994 Star Wars Dark Forces game. Today we're going to hook up the sewer drain room that's over in tunnel number 3, and I've already opened the door for that. So as we walk through here, right now I've got some water tiles down there. I want them to be up at this level initially, and we'll run across the way there into that little room where we will push that button, which will then lower the water level down to where it is now, and in doing so reveals this little door over here, which I've already hooked up. This is the same as the last door that we implemented at the end of the last video. It works the exact same way, it's hooked up the same way, so there's no difference. I went ahead and did that offline. And we open that door, and that takes us into the room beyond where we need to be. So we're going to work on this room today, and I've got 4 floor tiles here that we need to hook up. And so as we get started, I'm going to go ahead and come to the Path Grader tool, and I need to drop this down in the middle of the floor. And since I don't want the initial level to be down here, we need to put this starting point up at this level, which is where I want the water level to be. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then we'll go ahead and move this down, and the second point will be at the current level of the water, which is where it'll be when we lower it. And that makes it easy to reset the point, to reset the block on this path up to this point when we do a reset. So we'll come into the properties, and everything in here is good. I'm going to turn off the auto start objects when connected. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then I need to repeat this same thing for each of these other blocks. So we'll come over here and find the center of this one, which is there. But again, I don't want it to be at that level. We want it to be up at this level right here. And we want it to drain down to this point. We'll go ahead and set the properties for this while we're right here. Turn that off. And then for the next one, same thing. Find the center of the block. Make sure we're at the right level, height-wise. And one more. This last one will be a little bit tricky. I've got the single block, but most of it's underneath this section over here. So the middle of it's actually about right there. So this path is going to be buried inside of this block. There we go. Okay, so we got all 4 of our paths for each of the water blocks. And auto start is turned off on every one. So now we can come into each of the blocks and connect them to their respective paths. So new path connection. That puts that one on that block, or that one on that path. And then under the properties, everything under here is good except for the movement style, which needs to be one way and stop. We'll do that for all of the water blocks here. Hooking these up is a little bit tedious, but it's worth it in the long run. especially once you see it in action. And this one, as I said, is buried under here. Okay, so now we have our paths, and the blocks are connected to each path. And the water level is at the initial starting point where I want it, at the same level as the tunnel. So you can come through and run over here and push the button. So the next thing we need to do is when the button is pushed, we'll do a new logic connection. And actually before we do that, because I don't want to connect the button up directly to those paths, I only want the player to be able to do this one time. So for that, I'm going to need a logic gate. And so we'll go ahead and just drop this right here for now. So on a new logic connection, when pressed, we'll come over to the logic gate and do an input. And then on output from the gate, we come over to each of the paths, all 4 of these paths. There we go. And do a reset and play. And that will start the water level draining. Like that. And now since I only want to do this once, I need to close this gate after the water starts moving. And I think we can connect up to one of these paths to do that. So on the path creator, new logic connection. When reset and played, we can come over to the logic gate and close it. And we only need to do that for one of them, because you only need to close the gate one time. So that's everything. Now, since I'm probably going to test this a few times over the course of the build, we'll go ahead and hook up our level starter that we dropped last time. So on a new logic connection, when catalyzed at the start of the level, we're going to come over here and we want to make sure we reopen this logic gate. And then we also want to put those paths back and reset them so that the water level is back up to its initial starting point. So on each of these paths, I'm going to go down a little bit further. There we go. We'll do a reset and stop. And it's not quite so much to ensure that at the start of the level, those blocks are back where they need to be, although that isn't a bad idea. But I've got a reset button over there connected to the level starter. And so I can press that restart button. And again, we dropped that last time, and that will invoke the level starter to reset all of the objects that are connected to it. So then I've got a reset button that I can use to test this as many times as I want. And if I forget to reset something before I save it, before I save this toy box. The level starter will ensure that everything's at its initial state the next time I load the toy box. So there we go. I've got everything hooked up. So now we can come over here and test this out. So in the gameplay, we'll hit the button over there to open up tunnel number 3, and then we come running through here and across the water, and the room doesn't seem to go anywhere, but there's a button in here you push, and when you do, the water level drops, and hey, there's a door. So then we can come down here, and as we approach the door, it opens up, and then we move on to the next part of the level. So that finishes this room. Next time we'll work on the central sewage tank, which is similar to this room but is a little more complicated. I think it's different enough to warrant its own video. Meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed my video today, or at least found it helpful. You can use this same technique in just about any kind of toy box to create rooms filled with water or lava, and set up puzzles where the player has to drain an area or fill it in order to make their way through it. If you want to follow my progress on this blog, or see what other kinds of toy boxes I build in the future, be sure to sign up on my blog or subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also find the floor plans, logic diagrams, and other build tips on my blog that will help you recreate this toy box on your own console or PC if you want. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.